Hey Corey, you said you wanted a discourse. Okay. White privilege. I'm not going to argue the idea that society has been dominated by the idea of whiteness, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Um, that's the history of things. It's just the way that it happened. And are there still places in society where, being black is a negative? Yeah. And at the same time, don't lose heart. Because it's changing. I'm black, my brother, and I'm telling you, it's changing. I can't walk out into society where I live right now and use the N-word, even referring to myself, without three white people coming out of the woodwork and going, you can't do that. Let alone the idea of somebody else using the N-word referring to me. I've seen more people almost come to blows behind some ignorant person calling me the N-word and somebody else coming along and going, whoa, 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 you don't get to do that. That ain't cool, and we ain't having it. And I don't have to say a word. I see people tripping over themselves not to use the N-word. And I'm going to full on come out with this thing about political correctness in this idea of the changing tide of privilege, which the argument itself is there's something to it, but the argument is flawed. I see people trying very hard to come up with terms to call me so I don't get offended. Even now, there are places where, and this is in a lot of places now, where if I really chose to, I could use my color as an advantage and use the legal system to come down on my side if I so wanted it. Me walking into school, I get an extra little bump because I'm black. And it's not that I asked for it. It just kind of comes automatically. I don't necessarily like it, because too many people died for the idea that your skin color and mine shouldn't matter. You were talking about the litmus test for actors, Hamlet, Shakespeare. Don't get me wrong. I think you should be able to play whatever part you want. But there's a history there. Shakespeare was writing in a period of time in a location that was predominantly white. If you look at the ratios, there weren't a whole lot of black people running around Denmark. So, on the one hand, for an American role, maybe there's part of that. And I'm not an actor, so I'm willing to give you a lot of credibility there. But when we start talking about Shakespeare specifically, it's a little more it's more difficult. But then again, Kenneth Branagh did a version of Much Ado About Nothing, and Denzel Washington is playing the prince. What do you want, man? And he did a passable job. It wasn't very believable. Why? Because obviously it was predominantly a white society, and Denzel Washington's roaming around. And you're right, Shakespeare is timeless. But there was a culture there. There was a history there. And as much as I hate saying it, I can't really object too much to the idea of white people playing Hamlet. It was, it's accurate, but at the same time, if we're talking about stories, maybe we should be looking at the idea of African stories and why stories from Africa are not being told, why stories of black Americans during slavery are not being told. Maybe that would be the better call. You know,